Our picks for the best Xbox One controllers range in price and have different features, but they all have something to offer. Whether you want something inexpensive, something more accessible, or just like crazy, cool RGB lighting, we've got you. Number 1. Xbox Elite Series 2 Controller. Microsoft went all out when it sought to reimagine its high-end Xbox Elite controller. Building on the core Xbox One controller, the Xbox Elite Series 2 features a host of augments and upgrades, including customizable buttons and swappable D-pads, to a wireless charging dock. Do these extra features make a demonstrable difference? Yes. The controller feels premium in the hand, and while the extra weight is noticeable, it never made the Elite Series 2 unpleasant to hold. Its subtle features, like the way buttons and triggers feel when they're pushed or the smoothness of the joysticks as they're moved around and twisted, are easy to appreciate. The biggest technical differences between the Elite Series 2 and a standard Xbox One controller are its back triggers, which can be mapped to any of the controller's face buttons for easy access, and a circular, paddle-style directional pad below the left joystick. Number 2. Razer Wolverine V2 Controller. Razer's Wolverine V2 Chromo is a fantastic wired counterpart to the Series 2 Elite controller. With additional customization options and features, it's a luxury controller for players willing to pay for something special. Only, in this case, that specialty includes wired performance. The V2 Chromo is Razer's third Wolverine. It looks similar to the original V2 but with customizable RGB piping, which launched in 2020, and its 6 multifunction buttons evoke the original Wolverine Ultimate, which came out nearly 10 years ago. It also has many features found on the Elite Series 2, including trigger locks and a swappable D-pad. All in all, it's just as expensive as the Elite controller series and just as enticing for discerning players, which is why this controller is our pick for best wired Xbox One controller. Number 3. Turtle Beach Recon Xbox Controller. The Turtle Beach Recon Xbox One controller is a solid wired alternative to the standard Xbox controller. In exchange for having to plug in, you get selectable user profiles and rear quick action buttons, among other upgrades. However, the Recon stands apart from other controllers because of its audio-focused features. For players who plug a headset into the Recon with a 3.5mm headphone jack, the Recon gives you access to onboard audio controls, audio presets to mix your sound, and Turtle Beach's competitive superhuman hearing feature, which makes it easier to hear gameplay-relevant sounds like footsteps. It's the best audio-centric Xbox One controller and a very good option for players who want to optimize for competitive play without spending too much on a controller and/or headset. Number 4. Xbox Wireless Controller. Do not underestimate the Xbox Wireless Controller. The standard Xbox gamepad is an affordable, sturdy, and versatile gamepad. This version, which comes with the Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S, is fully compatible with the Xbox One and features a very useful extra button. The share button right in the center lets you record a screenshot or video without accessing the Xbox menu. This is the default Xbox controller for tens of millions of players, so, unsurprisingly, it performed very well during our gameplay tests. The Xbox Core controller is so good that we could easily have named it the best overall pick in this guide and dubbed the Elite Series 2 a premium option. The controller was always responsive, and its buttons, triggers, and joysticks felt fine. We've used this controller with an Xbox Series X for over 2 years, showing no sign of wear or degradation. One of this controller's underrated, or at the very least underappreciated, features is how nice it feels in the hand. It's lighter than its Elite sibling, and the plastic Microsoft used makes this controller easy to hold for multi-hour gaming sessions. If you go for a second controller, the Core controller, as it's called sometimes, comes in a dizzying amount of colors and feels great in your hands, with buttons that feel good, hardy triggers, and a grippy surface that doesn't get slick after lengthy gaming sessions. It may lack the bells and whistles of the other, more expensive controllers on this list, but it can handle anything you throw at it. Number 5. Power Enhanced Wired Controller. Power's Enhanced Wired Controller is the best cheap Xbox One controller you can buy for less than the cost of a new Xbox wireless controller. It's a solid wired option and adds some special features that the standard Xbox controller doesn't have, including a pair of customizable rear buttons. There's also a headset dial on board, so you can adjust the volume or mute the wired headset you choose to attach. The biggest benefits to using a wired game controller are never having to worry about latency, lag, or having to charge your device. Yes, using a wired controller brought back the classic memories of days spent tethered to 16 and 32-bit consoles of yesteryear, but it was nice to know our game wasn't going to get interrupted by a low battery warning. Regarding responsiveness, Power's wireless controller performed just as well as Microsoft's first-party wireless controllers. This is the lightest Xbox One controller we're recommending. This is because there's no heavy battery inside weighing it down, and while that didn't make much of a difference to us, it could be the deciding factor if you're optimizing your gaming experience for comfort. If you're looking for an inexpensive Xbox One controller that works just as well as options that cost roughly double its price, Power's Enhanced Wired Controller is the one to choose.